This is a special presentation of the Ticats Audio Network.
This is a special presentation on the Ticat Audio Network. I'm Bill Kelly. Well, joining us now on the heels of today's announcements about the changes that are coming with the organization, we welcome the new general manager of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Ed Hervey.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, this is great to see exactly what's going on here, and I guess we tend to look at this part of the season and this part of the year, I guess, with free agency, the season's over, speculation about who may be going where, things of this nature. But the reality is there's a constant evaluation going on in the organization, in every CFL organization, I guess, about who can do what, who can offer what, as you move forward into 2024.
Absolutely. And I think that's the evolution of what we do in our business, right, is that we kind of have to look inward first. And then there's 8 teams that do not win the championship every year, and those are probably the most disappointed teams in the league. And then there's one that wins, but all 9 of us have one thing in common, is that we're always looking to continuously to work to improve our rosters, the people that we surround ourselves with, and how we can build a level of consistency to win championships. And I think that goes without saying, and those are things that has happened here to this date.
Well, and you've developed a habit, I guess, of being with winning organizations. When you came up to the CFL years, of course, you were an all-star for a number of years. You won a couple of Grey Cups as a player with the Eskimos. And I'm sure you noticed when you finally came up here to Edmonton that particular time, one of the great franchises and one of the great managerial organizations, the Eskimos were champions all the time because of their front office structure and because of the attitude they took. And that's something you obviously adopted when you became general manager of the football team later on. And it's a key part in success, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think being in Edmonton for those early years and having an opportunity to have a, I won't say not a front row seat, but as a player, you have a seat in the auditorium watching the likes of Hugh Campbell. I think you have to start there. Like his legacy and greatness goes without saying. Edmonton being at that time was the flagship franchise, one of the flagship franchises in the CFL, and just watching how he handled himself, how he conducted himself, how he handled and just talked with the players and interacted with his staff. You pick up on those things, and those are things that I learned from watching him and realized that there's a way and there's a reason why his teams have been successful. And then from him leaving to Rick Lawlisher, you just tend to learn how that works. And then obviously having an opportunity to work with the likes of Wally Buono just shows you there's a level of consistency. And I think the one thing that has been there for all those guys is just how they treat people, the level of consistency in which their departments have been. And I think, success breeds from that.
Well, you learned the lesson pretty well because you won a Grey Cup as a general manager with that team too, building on that legacy that the Eskimos had contained. But coming to Hamilton as you did last year, this is an organization that seems built on that same premise. I mean, you look at people like yourself, the coaching staff, Scott Milanovich, and so many other people, they've got that Grey Cup on their CV. I mean, either as a player or as a coach or manager. This is an organization that knows how to win. And I guess maybe one of the most important parts, and I know you touched on this earlier, Ed, the support from up above, from the ownership, from the senior management to say, look, this is your game, go and do this, and to know that support is there for you to make those decisions, and for them to have that kind of faith in you is got to be a big thing in moving forward as a football team.
There's no question about that. Obviously, the great organizations in all professional sports have great ownership and great support. And you have to give this organization credit because the Hamilton Tiger Cats is seen as one of the flagship franchises in the CFL. The Bob Young and Scott Mitchell, those individuals have done everything possible to give this franchise a chance to be competitive on all levels and all fronts. Even being away and with other teams, we always saw Hamilton as one of those teams that when they spoke, everyone listened. We knew they had the best interests of the league and obviously are going to do what it takes to compete all within the rules. So there's no question that we're surrounded by an ownership group that is willing and prepared to give us all the tools necessary to be competitive to win. And to win now is what the expectations are.
Well, and the other element to this, too, is as you say, it's doing your homework, isn't it? You as a general manager, you've got to have faith certainly in the coaching staff. You've got to have faith in the infrastructure, the support infrastructure too. Who's looking after Canadian talent? That's a big part of a Canadian football team. Where can you fit those Canadians in there? The draft itself. Who's available from the other areas right now? And, who's scouting south of the border? I mean, it's a magnificent enterprise when it works, but boy, that's an awful lot of work and an awful lot of homework to find out who's doing what and who can be available. And I guess the bottom line here, Ed, who can help this football team?
Absolutely, but I think that's the beauty of this, is that there's a ton of talented, hardworking individuals within this football department, and we know that once our coaching staff and all that stuff gets settled, it's going to be a group effort in discussing the roster at length about which direction, how we want this to look. What do we want to present to our fan base moving forward? We know we want to be dynamic. We want to be more athletic. We want to be explosive and entertaining. We also want to win, and we understand that we want home playoff games. Those are some of the key points of what we're doing as far as who we have doing those things. We have a group of guys and ladies that are more skilled at doing those things and really are excited and chomping at the bit to get started. Once we get through this week and the coaching staff and all that stuff kind of comes to the table, then we'll have an opportunity to really start honing in on what we want to look like in the upcoming season.
I was talking with one of my media colleagues during Grey Cup week here in Hamilton, and he was asking, he says, disappointment. I said, yeah, I thought we should have done better this year. Probably could have won the game in Montreal too, but, that's water under the bridge now. And he says, well, when does the organization start to do this evaluation of the talent? And I said, they never stop. I said, I know these guys, yourself and everybody else involved in this organization, and that's an ongoing process, isn't it? You don't wait and say, okay, it's January now, it's 2024, what are we going to do? It's never ending for you guys, isn't it?
No, exactly. I think it's continuous, right? It goes all the way through, right? Like even with ourselves, the evaluations of our department from the ownership level, and then from us going to what we look like on the roster, we have to really dive into the why. How can we improve? Again, as I said earlier in our interview, there are 8 disappointed teams. And even the runner-up is probably the most frustrated of all. But the realities are that the realities are that we have to constantly be honest with ourselves as we evaluate our roster and how we get better. And whether that's age of players, the times, injuries, things of that nature. There's some things that are just outside of our control. But we have to discuss and talk about providing and making certain that there's depth to overcome those injuries down the line. But I think all in all, to your point, absolutely every day is an evaluation day, and we're always talking about who, what, where, and why and how when it comes to the roster and improving it.
Well, and that's already started. The process has already started. We mentioned that February 13th is the free agent day, but that doesn't mean you can't be talking to guys now. And you've already signed a couple of guys from last year that you want back on this roster for 2024. So there's no rest for you guys, is there? I mean, you're actively pursuing these guys and evaluating right now, but who can we bring back?
Absolutely. You identify players within your roster first, your core players, your quality players. They're more than just really good ball players. It's the intangible things that you don't see, how they are in the locker room, how they are with their teammates within the organization, because this organization has prided itself on having quality character people first, even as they play. So I think when you look at our signings, though, that's kind of where we're going with it as well, and we're excited about the opportunity in the futures of the future signings.
It's an exciting time, and as we say, there's no such thing as downtime in the Canadian Football League. There's always something going on here, and we're excited about the changes that are being made. And I want to thank you for taking some time for us today, Ed, and continued good luck. I know we're going to be talking more about some of these changes and announcements in the days and weeks ahead, but thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Bill. I really do appreciate it.
Take care. That's Ed Hervey, the general manager for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. As we mentioned, this is a very exciting time. And there are going to be more announcements about this as more news breaks from Tim Horton Field and the Tiger Cat front office. And you'll hear it here first, right here on the Ticats Audio Network. Thanks for listening. I'm Bill Kelly.
This has been a special presentation of the Ticats Audio Network. If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review wherever you find our content.